You're never going to have all the answers and be more ready than you are today to get started. Do something tiny like that. That's just going to take you 1 week after work, and just try to make a small thing and put it out there. And then do something bigger. You're stupid. Everybody's telling you you're amazing. You're not that great. Mm-hmm. You need to go learn from actual painters, not just digital art. This is how you do it. And at the time, I came up with a little bit of ego, and it's exactly what you need. You have to think in positive and negative with shapes. Like, you're kind of throwing stuff on the canvas until hopefully some shapes come up, and then you just refine it in the direction of that idea. The challenge I wanted to give myself is to do something that clearly looked and felt cold, even though I was using almost only warm colors. It's an immersive underwater roguelite simulation game centered around exploring and surviving the uncharted depth of an alien world while building and maintaining modular outputs. You get rewarded and you can kind of unlock more tools and more ways to survive.
One cool button though is the view in black and white color, so you can check out the values of everything.
How did you do that?
There's a button down here that says view black and white.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
What kind of site did I want? Because I got sick and tired of ArtStation like a long time ago. It's like a giant clusterfuck. It's too much. It's like it's overstimulation. But whatever you upload on here, your artwork is also AI protected. I have a couple of layers for protection on that. So no web crawling and scraping. All right, so we have Geoffrey. What's your last name?
I just saw that comment. You said Geoffrey. I was like, you asked me about how to pronounce my first name. It's Ernault.
What is that again?
Ernault, like air, like oxygen, like air and no, like there's no oxygen. Like Ernault is like the kind of French. Yeah, Ernault is the French way of saying that.
Okay, Ernault. Yeah, of course I asked the easier one when he first joined. But all right, well, so Geoffrey Ernault, which is cool. It sounds like an airbender, like avatar name.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what my powers are. No airbending so far, but maybe it'll show itself later at a later point in my life.
That'd be awesome. So you're a senior concept artist. That has I saw your resume that you started in films, it looks like, and then you moved into games.
Yeah.
And you were doing a lot of R&D over with Riot.
Yeah.
So does that mean you couldn't show a bunch, or
show as in of the R&D that I did?
Yeah.
I will never probably be able to show that. I mean, I did both. So I joined Riot for R&D. It was on a project that I was on for, I think, a year and a half ish. And ultimately, that project got revamped. So most of the artists and everybody that was on the team were. What happens is that they're just moved around in the studio, right? And I got moved on Valorant, and then worked on Valorant for a couple of years, and then in the meantime transitioned to indie, pretty much.
Cool. Yeah, which is freaking ballsy. I was actually just talking about that maybe like a couple of weeks ago, of how a lot of people are going into indie games now, because I feel like that's maybe the future, because the big blockbuster studios are all dying right now with the state of the industry is crazy. But it's like, man, that's a leap of faith of confidence and balls. Like, I have mad respect, man. And you produce a really cool, pretty gorgeous indie game that we'll talk about.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. What, Ties of Tethys?
Ties of Tethys, yeah.
Tethys. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. Yeah, it's how'd you even make that transition? I'm just curious.
So the short version of that is that it wasn't necessarily fully by choice, because at the time, I'm French originally, so I was moving here and I was on a visa. And after a bunch of visa issues, trying to go to other companies, trying to transfer visas and everything, it was so chaotic that roughly 10 years ago, I was already starting to do prototypes on Unreal and kind of trying to already play with making my own games, that it was just kind of on the side. And when I had all those visa issues, I just kind of had a project that I started working on the side. And then, when the visa issues kind of continued, I just thought, I'm just going to do that, because I'm tired of projects getting canceled. I'm tired of not knowing if I'm even going to be able to stay in this country 6 months from now. And, I needed something that I could continue working on, and two, have the faith that I could pour as much of myself in it as I could, all this creativity and motivation without the
Hmm.
fear of it being canceled or, higher ups or stakeholders deciding that that wasn't the right direction or anything. I was at a point in my career where I just thought, for me to be able to continue being motivated and inspired in this career, I need to do something that I truly believe in. That was ties of Tethys.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that's so scary about you know, getting into the whole entrepreneur route of anything like that is the, the financial side.
Yeah.
So did you have like stuff saved up? Do you have people supporting you? Like how would you maybe encourage others to get into making their
Sure.
taking that leap, into taking a chance like that to make an indie game?
Yeah. So the short version of it is Riot pays very well. So I had a few savings saved aside that kind of gave me a ramp, and a runway to be able to work on this. And the short version was, okay, well, if this doesn't work, at least I have some time to kind of find another job in the
Hmm.
meantime, right? Um, but that actually ended up lasting longer than I expected ultimately because we also in the meantime we were kind of looking for publishers and we so far we haven't really landed on any publishers that we thought was a good match, which meant that I needed for some time to also kind of um, almost do both at the same time, do freelance and kind of work on my project at the same time. And we also did get some funding from something I can't really talk about yet
Yep.
because that's something that I think they're with them. We need to do kind of more of a proper announcement. So I want to
Yep.
respect that.
Yep.
But it's not, it's just kind of a, I don't know if the right word is evangelist or something. It's not investor or whatever. It just we received kind of the short version is almost like a little bit of free money.
Like an
But again,
angel
that
investor,
I,
kind of
again,
like.
kind of, but it's more like we received a little bit of funds,
Yeah.
which wasn't. It's not something that allowed us to make the entire game or anything, but
Yeah.
yeah, it helped a little bit. But I guess the more correct answer is savings, and then once it became more involved, I went back to doing a little bit of freelance on the side and kind of working on it here and there, right?
Yeah. Cool. Uh, so did you ever try to do like a Kickstarter at any point?
No, I looked into it, but I think we're at a point with the game where we're fairly confident of where it's at in terms of the core gameplay, and we worked really on the foundational aspects of the game so that if we wanted, we could ship it, and
Hmm.
then we can add to it more. If that makes sense. And because of that, we thought, oh, it makes more sense to just go straight up to early access as opposed to try to do a Kickstarter campaign.
Hmm.
And it's also because honestly, it's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
And since we're such a small team, where it's just two of us, putting all that into a Kickstarter, and trying to run that for a month or 2 months and preparing and marketing for all that, just takes away from making the game, really.
That's awesome. Congrats on doing it, man.
Thank you.
It's
Appreciate it.
mad respect. So how do you have you been drawing your whole life? Is this how it's been going, or is it something that you picked up later?
Kind of, I remember the big kind of shift into actually thinking of art as a career, first and foremost, was when I was actually 7 years old. I remember seeing art for, I think it was StarCraft and Diablo at the time. And I just saw that and I thought, oh, wow, I know I want to do something within the video game industry. And
At
I
7.
was 7. So, yeah, I was 7, so I didn't really know the extent of it. Um, and so to me, I thought there was only one kind of job, and it was kind of video game maker, meaning
Hmm.
you do the 3D and you do the art. And of course, I didn't really have the knowledge that I have today. But so back then, I thought, oh, cool, I guess I want to make video games. And then a few years later, I continued kind of digging deeper and deeper, and I learned about concept art. But slightly in between, I was already kind of drawing and sketching, and I learned about that you can digitally color your art. So I bought a tablet. More accurately, my grandparents bought me a tablet. It was either going to be that or a turntable. So sorry, I am not a DJ today, but hopefully I made the right choice. Uh, and further down the line, I realized, oh, I can't, like, yes, I can flat color one of my traditional drawings, but I can also digitally paint. And from there on, I kind of realized, okay, so That's what digital painting is. That's what concept art is. I was kind of looking at a lot of art online and video game art, and then kind of trying to make all those.
What age was
Uh,
this at this point?
I think around 16,
16.
16 or
Okay.
17. Yeah. Um, and yeah, from there on, I continued to do digital art a lot. I was kind of we were traveling a lot at the time. Like my dad worked in kind of retail, the equivalent here of Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of supermarket stuff. But that took us abroad a lot. So we lived in China and Russia and all that, which
Oh,
meant that
okay.
for me,
Great
um,
experience.
yeah, it was very fun. But it meant that for me, because we moved so much, I didn't have the chance to kind of socialize as much with people and kind of retain people that I could hang out with, which meant I had long periods of time, when you move to another country
Mm,
where you don't know anybody. So I kind of had a lot of time to spend on my own on digital painting,
yeah.
to a point where people would meet me and would be like, "Oh yeah, you're the guy that draws all the time, right?" Um,
That's
yeah, and
hey, that it becomes your identity, so you're probably proud of it at the time. You're like, yeah, it is me.
yeah, it really was a thing, and it was nice to to have a thing that was my own, and everybody was like, "Wow, he's so talented." I mean,
Yeah,
I know people have kind of different appreciations for the word talented, but
yeah,
at the time, you're a kid, you're like, "Oh my god, I'm talented."
yeah.
It was just nice.
That's cool.
Um,
I mean, you probably drew on a lot of inspiration traveling around though with your imagination, right? So that's really great
Absolutely,
for your
yeah,
mind and your career in general.
yeah. I'm very thankful for that. Like you mentioned, I feel like I was exposed to a lot of different cultures and languages and visuals, right? Like
Hmm.
just seeing all those different architectures and outfits, right? Because you just look at the difference between French police or Russian police, right? Or China and all the different colors everywhere.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring. Um,
Yeah, people
yeah,
don't realize, I think outside the concept art world, they don't realize that even just um yeah, I guess even just anime fans. I doubt they even like outside the concept world, they're not realizing that a lot of the stuff is inspired by real life stuff. Like if you take a photo of an area in Japan somewhere, you're like, holy that literally is anime. Like what's going on
yeah,
here?
yeah, yeah.
Like
I love
it's
those
not just
comparisons.
right. It's not just and it's not. It's just like comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
So it's pretty wild. So the world is really magical out there, right? You just gotta see it,
yeah, it really is, and I think I know what you're talking about because I've seen those Facebook comparison posts where they're like, "This is from the anime and this is in real life," and it looks just the same,
right?
just stylized, right? Which is really neat.
It's crazy,
Um,
and it's not even that much more stylized. Like almost compositionally, it's the exact same. It's not.
yeah,
It's like the same vibrancy too, which is really weird. I've never been to
yeah,
Japan. I would love to go,
I really want to
just
go. Yeah,
yeah, just to see. But it's almost like you remember back when Avatar came out, and everyone was getting depressed because they thought, oh, the real world is not as beautiful
sure.
as a CG, and I don't know if anyone tried to commit suicide, but people got really depressed thinking that they're on such
Oh
a
Jesus,
sad
I do
world.
not
And
remember that. Wow. Well, and that's actually a fun point, but like I feel like you're taking us on a topic that's really interesting on that because
well, I'm talking about
specifically,
I'm not talking about Last Airbender Avatar. Sorry, I'm talking
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. No,
okay,
I
just to
figured.
be clear.
I can't airband. No. Yeah. Well, specifically on that, I actually do a lot of scuba diving,
Oh, sick.
and I actually feel like a lot of the things you see in Avatar, it's exactly what we were just talking about. It's things from real life that are just kind of mixed together to
Hmm.
come up with something new. But in a lot of cases, it's not necessarily new. It's just either people are not used to seeing those things, or it just mixes things that already exist, right? So then you just have to kind of decompose the visual that you're looking at to figure out, oh, okay, they just took corals and they just made them look, more saturated, or they just made the shapes more drastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's funny that you just said that you do a lot of scuba diving, which totally explains your game.
yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah.
drew from that experience, made a game out of your
Oh,
own life experience. It makes sense. Which
yeah,
is
a
why I
thousand
always
percent.
tell everyone, like, I think one of the biggest things to be more like just happier or more content in your life is to have multiple hobbies and interests, right? So you
Sure.
get to explore and not become monotonous. And that literally your experience became a game.
Yeah, and that's why I'm always so happy because I have way too many hobbies,
Uh,
way too many.
That's cool. I would love to learn how to scuba dive. My grandfather, um, after he retired, he got into all this stuff and like scuba diving, swimming with sharks. and I'm just
Oh
like,
wow.
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm supposed to do this. It's in my blood, right?
Yeah.
but
Well.
but it's also terrifying. So how do you handle going under in the ocean where it's literally just pitch black? And then,
Well.
because what happens to me is I imagine a shark face will just go right out of the shadows.
Right, right, right. Well, one that has happened to me, not
Oh
with a shark,
God.
but with a, those big eels with the
Oh
big teeth.
shit. Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that was one of my first dive. I was in Thailand, and I just was swimming behind everybody else, and I just take a look at the right, and there's literally a giant eel face there. So I did, the only right thing I could do, which was the tiny baby paddle, away from it. That was fine. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I actually, I'll have to send you this after. But I literally 6 months ago, I think, no, actually a little more than that, almost a year ago, I was in Spain, and we went on a night dive. And it's funny to me because when I look at the night dive and seeing all the flashlights going in from everybody else swimming, it does remind me a lot of the game. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, even though, of course, I know myself that I drew inspiration from all the diving, that moment was really like, yeah, I mean, clearly it's funny to see that the game is now at this stage where I can look at it and compare it directly with my inspirations, if that makes sense.
Well, did you actually use real life reference images of you scuba diving, or while you're
We did,
making?
and on top of that, I don't remember if we've mentioned that a lot yet, but we actually did work with professional deep sea scientists as well.
Oh, sick.
Um, yeah, we work with people from. It's called EV Nautilus, but I'm sorry, I might give not a super accurate description, but they go around with a little remote control submarine, and they kind of just do a lot of experimentation and studying, of different depths and everything.
Hmm.
I feel like that's a really bad representation of them, but that's the main thing that comes to mind right now. And they do lives as well, so you can actually, they have a little camera in there, and they stream it live, so you can literally, you never know what you're going to end up finding right with them, which is really cool.
Ah, that's awesome. Do you have like other hobbies that you draw from inspiration from, or?
Oh yeah, like I mentioned, I have too many hobbies. One is, of course, video games. I
Yeah,
play
of course.
I play way too many video games. I enjoy doing miniatures, so Warhammer and Machine and Krieger, which Machine and Krieger is also a huge inspiration for the game. I tend to fly drones, even though same thing that it's been quite a while that I haven't done that. I enjoy doing music. I'm kind of looking around trying to remember all the stuff that I enjoy doing.
Cool.
But yeah, the short version is that it's miniatures, drones, and music, I guess.
No, that's good. That's good. So how'd you end up getting your first job? Like, did you said you were figuring out around like 17, you're figuring this all out. Did you go to college for this, or did you what was your path to actually break into the industry?
Yeah. So first off, I always mix up because in France, I think it's inverted the college and university. I think
Oh,
what you guys call uni, I think we call it college, and what
yeah.
college for us is uni. So I might give you the wrong answers here, but yes, I went to art college and art uni, I guess.
Hmm.
But the experience I had there was good to give me tools overall to explore, but
Hmm.
the brunt of my knowledge for art kind of came from online. So school kind of taught me to work with other people, and it gave me the tools to understand. Okay, well, this is a marker, this is acrylics. How do they work? And hey, if you want to make a game, you have a game designer and you have a programmer, and this is what a game engine is. So I had all that foundational knowledge, and then from there on, I could learn in depth everything else, if that makes sense.
Oh, cool. So
Um,
from the education, how'd you break into?
Yes, sorry, that was your main question. Keep getting distracted. So I actually started work while I was still in school, which ruffled a lot of feathers at the time. But because I had learned concept art kind of online before going to school, I realized some of the knowledge we were getting was actually not fully accurate. People would tell you, "Hey, never use the round brush for painting. You have to use
Yeah.
custom brush." I'm giving you a random, probably not fully accurate example, but I very quickly realized that the knowledge that I had for digital painting was slightly above what we were being taught in school. And so from there, I think people took notice and started asking me to come do classes in other schools. which in some areas I think was great because I was able to kind of
Hmm.
give that knowledge, but was also potentially slightly irresponsible because I was still very young and learning.
Hmm.
So you're kind of asking somebody that doesn't have too
What
many
age was
experience.
this probably?
I was 20, 21,
Mm.
teaching people that were 26
Mm.
ish. So very interesting time.
Yeah.
But again, you also have to remember that at that time I was already painting for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. And that's all I was doing. That's really,
Hmm.
I would just go home and paint, right? Um, and from there on, I started doing workshops with people. I started being invited to events, doing demos. And then after school, I went to do an internship at a company called Cyanide Studios. They did a Game of Thrones game right before the show, like literally right before. So they were fully based on the book, and I think the release of the actual show because people, they couldn't relate. Like they came from the show. I don't think the game worked too well. And they also did a game that's probably more known, which is Blood Bowl. It's based on Warhammer. It's like a football Warhammer game. And they also did Cycling Manager, I believe, or Pro Cycling Manager, something
Okay.
like that. It's a French studio, so of course
Yeah.
they had to do something that's Tour de France, right? Um, yeah, but so that experience I learned from an amazing person that had a huge impact on me. That was called Cyril Tamasevi. And basically, the short version is Cyril taught me, you're stupid. Everybody's telling you you're amazing. You're not that great.
Hmm.
You need to go learn from actual painters, not just digital art. This is how you do it. And at the time, I came in with a little bit of ego, and it's exactly what I needed.
Hmm.
And to have kind of a mentor that was teaching me, hey, like, yeah, it's cool. You spent more time than anybody else to kind of get to the point that you're at now, but it's only the beginning. Here's how you can actually step up your game. Here's how you actually do things for video games, not just pretty images.
Yeah.
Here's the difference between an illustration and an actual design. And it really kind of solidified a lot of that foundation for me moving forward. So I'll forever be thankful about that. And after the internship, I then applied to, I think, I'm getting my words crossed because there was a lot of things going on back then. But I think I did some freelance for projects that said they were going to pay and they never paid. So again, that's one experience that taught me to use contracts and always sign a contract before I work. I did some freelance for mobile games. I think it was for it's called Natural Motion Games. I want to say they do physics engine and also mobile game now. But after all that freelance, I finally applied to a girl at Cambridge in England, which is also called Sony Cambridge, and that was my first real job, like real actual job. And I was working on R&D at the time to help them pitch multiple projects for Sony, and one of them that stuck was Rigs. It was kind of a VR, PSVR project where I helped, build the world. I helped design all the weapons and the main pilot suit and everything. Yeah, that was my break in the industry.
All right. Cool. And then you just moved over to the States and just kept on moving up, right?
Yeah, I fell in love with an incredible woman, and she was in
Okay.
Los Angeles. So what was I
There
supposed
you
to do? I
go.
was like, all right, I guess I'll find a job here, and I was lucky enough to apply at Riot and go there. Yeah, and I kind of try to make that story a little shorter than it really is because in the meantime, as you mentioned, I started in film, so I worked a little bit in freelance for NPC on Pirates of the Caribbean and I think it was Frankenstein, Daniel Radcliffe's Frankenstein, but it was so short. Like I really worked like a week on each of those, and it wasn't for me. And at the time, like I mentioned, there still was a lot of things I needed to learn, um, and I think games were just more of my speed. More,
When you
more of my
mentioned that illustration is not design,
yeah.
could you explain that for everyone?
Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity because the illustration definitely has design aspects,
Hmm.
right? Like you do design when you do some illustrations. I think people tend to, especially today, from what I'm seeing online, I think people think concept art and they think, oh, you just create a beautiful image of something interesting and new. But it really depends on the target product, right? Like depending if you're doing a film, if you're doing a mobile game, if you're doing a video game, or if you're doing concept art for vehicles, for something real. Um, Concept art is more meant to be a solution to a problem. So, if it's a game, they're going to tell you, hey, we need an environment that's on Mars, but it's 10,000 years from now, right? So you think, okay, well, how is Mars made? What are the conditions like over there? And what could it look like in 10,000 years from now, right? As opposed to an illustration is usually more focused on representing something that's usually already solved or telling more of a story, right? Concept art it tends to be more something that solves problems. And that's why I think a lot of people tend to have the wrong idea of it and think that when you do concept art, you're just kind of always doing pretty images. But very often you tend to just do kind of rough sketches and iterations and exploring different solutions to give designers and art directors kind of options to solve the problems that they're trying to solve.
I mean, there was also even just like if you're doing props, like you break down specifically, like you got the isometric view, like different angles, up, top, low,
Yeah,
detail, slice, all that stuff for the modelers,
absolutely.
because it has to be explained. Like a modeler has to be able to read and comprehend what the concept artist is trying to say. So if the concept artist is all expression and you can't
Absolutely.
read it, it's just like, well, I don't know what to model.
Yeah. And that's one thing that you need to be able to do as well today is if you're doing concept art and somebody tells you, well, I have no idea what this tank looks like from the other side, right? You need to be
Yeah.
able to either show or explain how it works from all angles.
Yeah.
And also that's actually something that is looked at very often when concept artists are hired is if in your portfolio you only have images that are kind of self-serving, they're just kind of pretty images, or if clearly you're able to show that you just care about solving problems, right? That's definitely something that people look out for.
Cool. All right, so let's get into the Atmo site and check out your work.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm gonna share my screen.
I mainly uploaded kind of the main lines. Let's say it's not the full body of work that I have currently,
Oh, yeah.
but I figured hopefully that was a good start. Let's put it that way.
If you check over here, there's a new map painting tool called DMP Exporter. It's a Photoshop plugin that will export out all your layers with one click and simplify your color workflow a lot, which will be a huge lifesaver for map painters everywhere. That will save you a lot of time. So go over there and check it out. Here's a little sample of it, and keep an eye over there as it continues to grow. Let's get back to it. Yeah, cool. All right, so for the people that don't know Atmo, I'll do a quick little overview. So Atmo is www.atmovfx.com, and it's basically like ArtStation, but it's more organized. It doesn't support AI, so whatever you upload on here, your artwork is also AI protected. I have a couple of layers for protection on that. I'm still looking into more to add more layers of protection for it. So no web crawling and scraping. And it's organized through, right now, it started off with just focus on environment art, but I've been expanding it off into other departments. So all environment, which was this tab up here, you got your traditional stylized movies, games, skybox, concept, etc., etc. And then over here, you get to the effects where you'll have different, well, I guess I could just click on it. Different categories for that department. And it moved over here. I'm actually updating different layouts on the site currently, so that actually moved. And it's also organized by experience level, so you can check out all the work or break it up into senior work, student, junior, mid, and all whips and senior whips and stuff, which will actually be, I'm going to be moving that and having it over here, so it's more, I guess, so people can know what this is. Apparently there's some confusion there. And I'm actually going to have a scrolly of artwork in this area for non-senior work. That's just scrolling, and people can check it out so they can get some exposure as well. But one cool button, though, is the view in black and white color, so you can check out the values
Oh
of
wow!
everything.
How did you do that?
There's a button down here that says view black and white.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, so I'm making this. What kind of site did I want? Because I got sick and tired of ArtStation like a long time ago. It's like a giant clusterfuck. It's too much. It's like
Right.
it's overstimulation, and so I'm just thinking like I want this also to be educational so people can learn from the masters. So like that's why I've had it organized by like that you're looking at senior professional work, and then you can check out their values and learn from them. And why does an image look so good, right? Because values are so important for that.
That's great. Yeah.
So your work, let's check out Geoffrey. So let's go. Your works pop up on here, which is go into your profile. There's also just to help this grow. There's an anonymous income survey for people
Mm-hmm.
to just put up how much they make, and it's all anonymous. I don't even know who it is, and just because I feel like a lot of artists don't understand what their worth is, especially
Sure.
at different positions when they're negotiating. So this hopefully will help people and empower them. So look at this sexy stuff.
It's me.
Yeah, it's really like this so colorful. It's cool. So let's
Thank
check it
you.
out. Let's click on this one.
Yeah.
Also, even with your own individual, you can do black and white,
Ooh, I like
and
that.
and you can also upload as big of a file you want. So this could zoom in even more.
Oh, bless. Okay, I know you were talking about ArtStation. I still have some aspects of ArtStation that I still enjoy. And, it was my first real portfolio site after DeviantArt. But the fact that now it's limited to I think 10 MB is not great. Understandable, but it's not great.
Yeah. Well, currently, unless something happens that it gets overloaded or something, I have no reason
Yeah,
to limit it. So.
that's awesome. Yeah, I
um,
love that.
yeah. So and then you can still check out the black and white values,
Oh yeah,
which is cool. Like just to see, for example, like these
yeah. You
red,
see, yeah,
right?
they disappeared. You see
Yeah,
the like those two tentacle. But that's also to show like color plays a huge role, right? Even though the values might blend in, like color also is very helpful for
yep,
readability.
exactly. The saturation is just you know what? It's funny is that it's actually red because I was at a art museum and I was looking at this one painting and it
Mhm.
was just I think it was on a stormy night in an ocean in a boat and it
Right.
had just one little hit of red out of nowhere. And to me, I'm
Nice.
like, that's so ballsy. This guy's a badass. Like, and it just sticks out and it works. And
Yeah.
because your eye goes right there because the contrast of the colors.
Sure.
And it just seems like it'd be so risky to do that, but it works so well. But yeah, what's the story? What's the background behind this image?
With the background, honestly, a lot of my images and especially stuff like this, I started them without necessarily having any ideas. Like I kind of love, for me, the concept of just starting a painting with not knowing where it's gonna take me and just following that, right? And that's what happened with that one. I think I started during another podcast. Funny enough, that's almost 10 years ago. I started the image during the podcast to show methods to come up with ideas, and then after the podcast, I kind of just finished the image. Yeah, honestly, funny enough, this image was kind of more of a chaotic, fun
Exploration.
exper. Yeah, yeah, it was just for fun, really. There was no specific intent with it
Is there any
originally.
story with it or just making cool shapes and
Honestly, yeah, I would lie if I found any meta meaning or anything behind it. It was
Mhm.
just I was just having fun painting something, really. And then I kind of started putting the shapes and doing that. You're thinking, okay, well, let me just I'm using a lot of green, so let me add some yellows and blues to kind of go with that. And then start thinking, okay, well, what's a tertiary color that I can use to kind of pop from everything else? And I just started putting some reds, and I thought, okay, well, what can I do with that? Just put a few mushrooms and one big plant in the rule of thirds, and then have the other side of the rule of thirds have kind of floating entities, right? That's honestly the short version of it. There's no real lore or anything behind that image.
So you're saying that these little things, yeah, they land on the the rule of thirds,
Yeah, I
and
believe so.
yeah, and no, it's cool shapes, man. It's like so you have especially this area where you got this piece, and you got the shapes just pushing back and back and back and back and back.
Thank you.
What kind of are there any techniques that you could talk about with this? Like how you start with the major shapes, or are you photo bashing and painting on top of it, or doing any? Do you use any 3D to help you with anything? Or
Yeah. Before I forget, in case anyone wants to, I do think I have the PSD available for that. Let me put a link on Atmo so that I'm not advertising for any other sites at the same time. But so if you do want to see how it was made overall, I have the full video process and also like a
oh,
PSD.
sick!
I'll put it in the comments, or should I?
You
Is
can
it?
put it in the
Oh,
description
yeah, I'll
for
do
the
that.
image.
But yeah, the two I guess main things is one is at the time I was kind of letting myself be really chaotic and just again just trusting the process. What's hard with that is that sometimes you can kind of just paint for an hour or two and nothing really happens. But if you kind of stick with it and keep going, most of the time what I've noticed is that something starts appearing, if that makes sense. But at the time I was painting with kind of I believe mixing a lot of pictures together and not in a way where you can really see anything that is left over from the picture, but more so just creating kind of a chaotic base that then might give me ideas. You know, it's kind of that roar chart. I think it's called the ink spot test. You know, where it's like, what do you see from these ink
Yeah,
blobs?
yeah.
So it's kind of similar. Just you're kind of throwing stuff on the canvas until hopefully some shapes come up, and then you
Hmm.
just refine it in the direction of that idea, right? So I think for this one, I slapped a few images together, changed the blending modes, and then I thought, oh, that's interesting. That kind of looks like weird tree arches. And then
Hmm.
from the moment that that idea hits, it's just a matter of kind of refining in the direction of that idea, right? Like, okay, if I want this to be tree arches and everything interconnected and interwoven, how do I paint that? And then I start rendering in that direction, right?
Okay, cool. Do you use multiple layers in Photoshop, or you just use like one or two?
It depends. When I do sketches like this, I tend to kind of go gung ho and not really care too much about organization, and I
Hmm.
just kind of flatten everything here and there so that I have almost a history state. So I can kind of come back to it, see what's changed, and if there's anything I don't like, I have kind of a backup of it. But I just keep going in terms of layers. I don't. When I do images like this one, I don't have anything disconnected and organized per layers. It's really more. It's almost like just a history state, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um,
So when you're doing the say like the atmosphere on here, um, are you drawing the major shapes without any kind of value atmospheric perspective on it, or are you kind of or are you doing both at the same time
I'm
since you're
doing both
just
at
kind
the
of
same
freely
time.
going?
Yeah, I'm doing both at the same time. Usually, that's the first thing that I start doing is kind of block out the main values. Right, try to have like a atmospheric perspective gradient, so I know where kind of all the different depth planes are, and
Hmm.
then kind of connecting everything together from there on.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice. I like this more painterly look in
Thank you.
here. I've always loved the smudge effect that people have been
Right.
using. I need to start using. I feel like I need to start using those
That's
smudge
that's actually mixer brush.
mixer
Yeah,
brush.
that's my secret for that is going mixer brush with. I think it's no mixing. I think it's just heavy deposit, or I forgot the actual name, but yeah, and then just sampling what's already on there as opposed to just having one flat color. You just sample what you have there and you kind of paint with that. If that makes sense.
Smudge.
So
Like
you know the
what gives it
healing
the
brush.
smudger?
So you know the healing brush, how it like samples a
Yes.
spot. It's kind of that, but as a brush. So you're not just taking one color, you're taking one simple area, and that
Okay.
now becomes a brush, right?
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I have to see that in action.
yeah,
Then you come back here and do a little demonstration.
sure, yeah,
Cool. Let's go check out the other ones.
yeah,
This is definitely less Lucy. Oh, it's Zelda or Link.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. So what's the process for this?
So that actually was that was a an art test for what now is known as Palia, was for
Hmm.
Singularity 6. That was kind of their conventional art test at the time, I believe. So if you look at ArtStation or other sites like that, and you look for, Zelda House, there's a high chance that that's for Singularity 6 back then.
Oh, okay.
Um, But yeah, so from that, I kind of came up first with a few sketches and ideas. Actually, let me upload that because I think I forgot to put that in there. But I first started with sketches, and then once I had my ideas, I kind of went on with a blockout, a 3D blockout, and from there on, kind of just started refining. Right. So let
Hmm.
me upload this really quick for you.
What is this that you're
Just
uploading?
the steps because there's I have all the steps and the different
Oh, for this
phases
one
in
too?
this. Yeah, yeah, I
Oh,
can.
cool.
I can just put that straight up into the because I'm able to upload multiple images for one project. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what I'm actually in the middle of adding is, so you saw how you could do the portfolio and drag a bunch of images into that
Yeah.
portfolio or the group. I want to add a subgroup within the, like, let's say you have a breakdown for that image. So for this one, for instance, and you have multiple
Okay.
breakdowns for that, I want to actually add another group inside of that,
Okay.
for people to organize their stuff more. I'm
Gotcha. Cool.
trying to decide if I should do it as like the layout I have now, or do it as a single page thing like ArtStation. But I've never really liked that layout
Hmm.
of just scrolling, endless scrolling, and you never know what's good. Like, when is it going to
Yeah.
end?
Yeah. I
um,
think that's a good point. There's definitely an opportunity there to try something.
you can add, as much as you want in the group, or
Right.
you can even make another portfolio that says tutorials, and you can add them
Nice.
all into there. Do whatever you want. Add as
Oh, hey, I
many.
can do comment. Oh, comment with drawing. That's awesome.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I like that. Nice,
So
yeah, because with feedback, you can just actually upload like, "Hey, like this area sucks," or
yeah, no, that's exactly. So that's the thing. That's actually a really important thing I want to talk
yeah,
about real quick.
I love
So
that.
there is post with, yeah, we'll say a post comment with markup, and if someone hits, like, if you had hit open for feedback,
Mhm.
it will say open for feedback. So that means the people looking at are looking for hardcore feedback. So anyone can go on there and just like, okay, I'm going to be actually pretty harsh on this person, like, instead of just unwanted feedback. We're like, like, I'm not looking for criticism. I'm just showing my work. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
So yeah, you can do the markups. Let me log in. I am
I'll
logged in.
in the meantime, I'm emailing you the different images for the one we were talking about, the Zelda
Why am I not seeing it on? Oh, I had
comment
to
with
hit
drawing.
view
Yeah,
more. That's interesting. I need to fix that.
I didn't
So
have to on my side, by the way.
oh,
I
you
think
didn't? Maybe it's because I'm
no, I was just
under
like,
administration or something. I'll have to check that.
"Hmm,
Anyway, so yeah, you can comment, and you can circle the areas. Use
I
different
love that.
colors that you want. Check, check, check. It doesn't work with a tablet yet. I'm trying to figure that out.
I
So
really love that.
mhm. You'd be like, you know what, this area, awesome, or hit it with green. Awesome. Oh man, it's green
Yeah,
on green. You can't see it. There.
that's funny.
Awesome. Great work. Big smiley face.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
And then you can also do it when it's black and white. So way to do that, you can do resets. Get rid of all the marks. Go to black and up. Why is that not
I'm
working?
assuming, yeah, you just have to do it probably before and then comment,
Black and
right?
white, and then post with drawing. Oh no, apparently it does. Okay, that's something I have to fix too.
That's awesome. But see, I love that. I love that you're just. The reality is from my understanding, is you're the only one working on this, or you probably have a small
I
team,
have
right?
I'm outsourcing some developers
Right.
that I found off of Fiverr. What a great site.
Very cool.
But
But
yeah,
that's awesome, right? I love seeing that. It's okay. It's when you try something new, things are bound to break here and there, right? But that's
yeah,
the kind of try new things.
yeah, for sure. It's a work in progress. This is actually, remember we were talking about, you can upload as big as you want. There you go.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah, that's awesome.
pan around and check it out.
I
So I'm
love
trying
that.
to really, like, if join the Discord, comment on the YouTube pages for any suggestions. I have a suggestion channel in the Discord to say, like, yo, you should fix this part of the site, or I don't like this, I don't like this feature. I really wanted to make it like, our dream site. You know,
Mhm.
so I'm open to any kind of feedback and all this stuff. Yeah, let's get back to this image. um,
Yeah, I don't know if you received it, but I sent you an email a minute ago with the steps. I don't know if we're able to look at that really, really quick.
okay,
Yeah, so the
nice.
process with it was, as I mentioned, like first I did a few sketches just to get, they were really rough, but it just kind of to get a global idea of what I wanted to do. And as you can see, I landed on number 9. Um,
Hmm.
and then from there, kind of went in and did a block out, and from the block out, kind of did a render, I think potentially in Blender, and then painted on top of it.
Yeah, what was the inspiration for the shapes? Just trying to just like were you looking at references at all or
Always, yeah. I use a pure ref that I just have opened on the side, and I tend to spend like an hour or two before any kind of real project, just kind of gathering references. And I'm actually going, I'm as much looking for what I should be trying to hit, and at the same time for what I don't want to hit. Meaning, if I see a Zelda house that somebody has already done, I might take inspirations from it, but I also want to look at it so I can think, okay, how can I make something different from that and kind of push the envelope, right? Because
Mhm.
I also this what even though this was kind of a fan art, it's not meant to be um, just a direct fan art, right? It's meant to be more inspired and come up with something new.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. Is not just looking for references of what I should be doing, but also the things that I'm trying to kind of avoid.
Cool. And then you move on to blocking out 3D. So do you use a lot of 3D in general?
Yeah, tons. I mean, especially now that I'm indie and making the game, like
Hmm.
not all of it, but um, like 75-80% of the game's 3D is mine. We had a contractor called Jasmine that did amazing work as well. But aside from all the work she did from the project, I'm the sole 3D artist on the game. So yes, I do a lot of 3D.
Yeah, it's 3D, especially now that 3D has gotten so much easier. I feel like
Oh
over
yeah,
the times, and
yeah,
and the lighting is a lot easier to do now too. That's nice. So you did a paint over of your 3D viewport basically, or was this? I
yeah.
guess you had a cast shadow in there. So
Yeah, and see, that's exactly what we were talking about earlier, which is this view, you never see it in the final painting, right? But it's important for anybody that would want to model this in 3D that they have an idea what the back of the house looks like so that they
hmm.
could model it, right? So that's why I still sketch the back view.
Oh, that's good. That's cool. Oh, nice. Yeah. So you're drawing the line these edges, or are they part of the shader?
That's all drawn. Yeah, that's, since I started with the block out, I wanted to have an idea of where I'm going to have all the details. And, for example, the bike wasn't there at all or the horse wasn't there at all. So kind of sketching where I want things to go. But I don't. I did do a lot of line art when I worked on Valorant, but aside from that, I'm not. Line art is not something that I default to. I use it mainly for blocking out ideas and shapes, but
Hmm.
it's not something that I tend to like. I prefer sculpting, if that makes sense, in terms of
Yeah.
digital painting. Like I sculpt. I like just going in and changing shapes.
Yeah.
So line art is more something that I use like this just for sketching
Yeah.
placements, if that makes sense.
Yeah, line art to get those smooth lines. Whew, I'm not. I have to get a little bit of extra help with like the pen tool or the lazy
Yeah, yeah.
brush.
Yep. Lazy brush all
Yeah.
the way.
Were you using lazy brush on these? Because these are nice and smooth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even when I used stuff like ZBrush, I think it was called at the time like Lazy Yazumi or
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah,
Mhm.
they had plugins to smooth
Yeah.
brush shapes.
Cool. Thanks for showing that. Yeah, you could totally add these onto your page.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so cool. You have the bike there. You have Link. How are you? How do you going about with the different colors variations in here? Like, is there a process of how you're painting? Like starting with a underpaint of orange and then just adding scattered brushes of different colors, or like how you?
That's honestly pretty much it. I tend to always start simple with colors and then go more complex. So for that, I make sure that I had a one specific grass color, and then what does it look like in shadows, and then on top of that, what I did, if you zoom in, you can see it. I have a hue shift happening on the brush, so I kind of start with a front and background color on the brush, and because in the settings it's already shifting between those two colors, I kind of just have to paint around it. It already does a lot of the heavy lifting. Um,
Okay. So you're saying that you use, let's say, this foreground green color and
yeah.
then the orange as the range of colors it's going to do?
Well, if you literally look at that orange spot you were on a second ago, and you zoom in on that, like the difference between
I can't
the
go any further.
the
Upload a
okay,
bigger res.
yeah, yeah, sorry. But that saturated orange on
Actually,
the left of that brush, and the rest of it, that's just done by the brush itself. Like I didn't change the colors there. So all that kind of variety that you're seeing within just that there is just one brush stroke, and you see it like right above, like top left of that orange spot as well. I mean, and it's in a lot of spots there as well. But you can kind of see. Actually, yeah, I'll show you another example. But you see to the left of Link how there's like a little bush that has dark blue and green. Yeah, right to the left of that. Yeah, that blue and the green were not like I didn't place these separately. That was just kind of one brushstroke. But
Oh,
because I'm using dark blue and green within the brushstroke, it kind of bounces between the two.
okay, that's cool. And you only did it. You chose it just for the bushes, and then changed it for the grass.
Yeah, I was kind of like color picking all the time, and since I'm already getting color shifts from the brushwork whenever I color pick, I'm color picking colors that are ever changing. If that makes sense.
And it works within the space
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
you're color picking. Okay,
Yep.
that's
So
cool.
you kind of just start from two colors, and then you kind of just go ham and color pick all the time. And
And you would do the same with the shadow over here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the same. It's like you just place one shadow, and you already kind of have your color range, and then color pick within the two colors that you like. Like your shadow, and then let's say you add a little bit more blue in the foreground color, and you
Hmm.
just paint with that.
Okay, cool. No photos in this, I guess, because you used the 3D base and then just painted.
Correct. Yeah, no photos in that. The next one has photos, however.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to play with that trick of. I have this played with it a little bit, like a while ago, but I haven't really. Yeah, I need to push that more. All right, let's
Um,
go. Let's go to the next one. This is basically going back to your. It seems like there's a look that you like. This fantasy, like this one versus that one, and like this one over here.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's honestly my go-to. It's either I love doing images that are more horror in theme, but kind of come up almost pretty. It's like
mm.
finding beauty in chaos and horror, and then the other side of it is kind of more alien planets and colorful foliage stuff like this. I really enjoy doing.
Is this from a plant that you painted on
This
top
is
of,
a
or
pineapple.
pineapple? I was about to say pineapple.
Yeah, so that one I think I just had I painting the I blocked out the shape under that and using kind of the orange that you see everywhere else, and I think I just put a pineapple picture in darken mode, which meant that the core of the pineapple,
Mhm.
since it was darken mode, it kind of like showed the orange kind of comes through. If that makes sense.
That's really
Um,
cool.
Thank you. And then there, right next to it, you can see it's kind of the same base, but then I just kind of took the pineapple bits and kind of extruded them right with either regular paint or a smudge brush or
Hmm.
something.
I have issues with the loose form of a painting because I'm usually like a finish artist, and I do the concepts that are still kind of loose, but there's something that blocks me from just going, hey, it's okay to have these like
Sure.
spots and squiggles, and like it's fine, just go with it. It's indicating something.
Yeah. My biggest trick for that is I tend to paint as zoomed out as I can,
Yeah.
depending on the stage that I am at. And then I almost render images like a computer, meaning, when you use something like Blender and you're rendering with cycles, it kind
Hmm.
of does the squares, like the old school rendering style where it does
Hmm.
squares everywhere. That's kind of how I render images. I try to always keep the same rendering level everywhere. That's why even when I'm loose with brushstrokes, I make sure that everything is at the same level, and then I go next step, and then I go next step. I never kind of stay somewhere and just fully render it the way it's supposed to be finished, if that makes sense. And that helps me stay loose.
Yeah, starting small definitely is big. Even just in the middle of painting, when you zoom out just to see, making sure that the composition is working and the atmosphere is working and everything, or the values are working. This area over here, man, this reminds me of. I'm trying to remember that children's book. They actually made a live action movie of it back in like 2000. Uh,
Something
images.
called monsters in my
Oh, here
room.
it is. Where the wild things are.
I knew that's what you were talking about. I don't remember. I didn't remember the title, but that's literally what I thought you were talking about. That's funny.
Yeah, the same kind of tone, the moodiness in it.
That's cool. I've never seen it or read it, sadly.
Oh, really? Well, the movie is actually quite good. You should check it
Okay.
out.
I'll make a note.
Yeah, right in here. It's like it's all. I feel like you're gonna go in there and you're gonna meet those monsters. They're
Nice.
friendly monsters,
That's
or
awesome.
are they
Yeah,
friendly?
honestly, I love that because, like I mentioned earlier, that's kind of always my goal is to do something that when you see it, it should make you feel a little spooked.
Mm-hmm.
But then because it's still pretty enough, you still kind of want to explore it, right? You're like, oh, I hope nothing bad's going to happen, but I can't
Mm-hmm.
resist kind of wanting to go there.
Yeah.
It's kind of my go to.
Well, what made you decide to use the orange and the greens? Is it just whatever floats your boat that day, or?
Yeah, on it. Honestly, yeah. I start sketching with greens, and then when I have the greens, I put some purples because it's just a natural opposite color with the orange as well. So it just put the greens and the purples, and I thought, oh yeah, orange is a great tertiary for that. So it just
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of decisions like that are obviously based in color theory that I've acquired through the years. But I'm also not thinking, oh, I'm going to do an image and it's going to have all those perfect tertiaries. Like a lot of it is kind of more intuitive at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Totally. And what about the composition? Were you just thinking, okay, well, let's have it go off the page to make it feel like it's larger, and then you have these shapes hit it over here, so it seems like it's going into the distance for the scale, and then just give space to breathe? Like, what made you decide this is just going to be white over here, and blown and more exposed up versus those areas?
Yeah, so I think I started with a big block out of the shapes, right? So that main point of interest is what I think I started from. And then, I balanced it again with the rule of thirds. And I think when I was working on the background, initially it was meant to be more kind of, I think, steam and vapor kind of going behind them. But
Oh, okay.
ultimately, I think I accidentally had from what I remember, I think I accidentally made kind of a sharp edge on one of the smoke side. And then I thought, oh, cool, that kind of looks like a mountain behind the plants, right? And I just kind of kept it.
You like the composition of it. Feels like you're in the forest, because it is going off the screen.
Oh, thank you.
And then yeah, that's cool. All
And
right.
I did have a lot of my images. I tend to have people that I kind of have double check here and there. Especially images that I really care about, I'll tend to send it to somebody here and there and be
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, do you notice anything wrong with this? Do you have any tips or whatever it is? Especially people that I tend to trust in terms of their
Yeah.
art sensibilities. I
Yeah,
guess.
for sure. Did you have any feedback on this?
Yeah, I mean, it was composition. I think
Yeah.
people helped me refine a bit the composition because I think the first time that I did it, there was some things that weren't standing out as much. So, and it was not as well balanced. So I think that's the feedback that I got.
Well balanced. So what was it? Like you had too much weight on the left side, or?
I think so, and I think the main POI I think potentially wasn't extending as high. I mean, that image is already like 5 or 6 years old from what I remember. So if I'm honest, I can't quite
Yeah.
remember everything.
Cool. Yeah, this is okay. That's cool. This Pirates of the Caribbean style. Let's go.
Thank you. Yeah, that one was I think done 90% on tablet actually on iPad.
Oh,
With
really? What
Art
is that
Studio Pro.
like? Like, is that really?
It's weird. I know everybody says, "Oh, it's so good. You can paint on the iPad." Like for me, and you can probably relate because you do matte painting. I want a certain level of control. I want to
Mhm.
know, where all my tools are. I want to have my layers. I want everything to be intuitive. I want to have control, right?
Yeah.
On iPad, I find that to be really hard, except if I'm using Art Studio Pro, because to me it just feels like Photoshop. I know where my tools are. I know where my layers are. I really love Procreate, but when I use Procreate, I mainly do sketching and really loose stuff because I
Mhm.
don't feel like I have the same level of control, which is a really good thing for me because I feel like when I can just let loose and not have as much control, I tend to have more fun and sketch better. So in that way, Procreate's awesome for that. But for something like this, I did have to use Art Studio Pro.
So you have to basically treat it like you're painting on canvas, like an actual real life painting.
Yeah,
There's no. Are there layers
Procreate.
on?
For Procreate, this was Art Studio, and Art Studio is closer to Photoshop. So
Okay.
you do have all the layers and everything, and gradient maps and all that.
Does it have the same kind of pressure sensitivity as a Wacom?
Yeah, and you can fully customize it, on all those apps.
Hmm.
Like honestly, they're all great. I do quite enjoy both Procreate and Art Studio.
So this was just you sitting around relaxing, one of the a pirates, dead zombie pirates, to fight or protect the pirate ship.
Yeah, that was me playing a lot of. I don't know if you're familiar with Sea of Thieves. It's like a really fun video game. Imagine Pirates of the Caribbean, but if Pixar made it in terms of art style, and then it's a video game. So you kind of go around. You have a boat. You can go anywhere you want in the Sea of Thieves, which is what they call the world. And you can just go around and pick up missions. It's absolutely fantastic. But one of the big things that you see in this is I think you also have it in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's when basically like big boats come out of the water, right? And if you're underwater, you can actually see them come up. And that just inspired me to do something similar.
Hmm.
I just really wanted to have an image where you would see all the dead pirates that for once were kind of all walking on this on the seabed, but then at the same time they had kind of their ship slowly picking up to start, going above the seas and attacking people.
Well, it's great that you have this contrast of the shark behind the lighter value, and also the eel or something
Yeah, yeah,
in
big deal.
the god rays over here. So, one of the things that clicked for me when painting clicked for me was separation of values, to
Mhm.
create that contrast, to be able to separate something in front of something behind it. And yeah, so like it's to help create that distance, right? um
Right.
yeah, no, this does a cool job, and also this highlights, your eye goes there and everything. It's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I tend to spend a long time just blocking out the values initially, early on in an image, and then on top of that, refining. But first, making sure that everything's kind of readable and just silhouettes, really.
Hmm. Cool. So we go off from digital painting style to more traditional painting, but it's probably still digital, but it
Yeah.
looks more. This is really nice.
Thank you.
Like, this
Appreciate it.
is would I
That
say
is
this is
actually
my
one of the
favorite,
favorite
or
paintings I've done. So
oh, your favorite painting?
I think it's one
I
of my
literally
favorites
was
myself.
in the middle of saying I think this might be my favorite one on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the mood on this. This feels like,
Thank you.
old, like classical kind of style painting.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at a lot of the time. I was looking at old school Russian painters and
Mm,
painting Russian winters and things like that.
yeah, the mood is awesome. So, what made you want to do the church, or is it a church? I guess
Yeah, I mean
a barn
it's
church.
kind of a barn with
I
I
thought
guess
that was
an
a cross, but then
Orthodox
I saw
church.
this one, so I don't know
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. I honestly don't even remember about the kind of cross at the top, but yeah,
Hmm.
again, since I was looking at a lot of Russian Orthodox and winter paintings at the time, then that would make sense if it is. Um, yeah, honestly, this was I think from custom shapes. I don't know if that's something that uh, you use on.
I don't. What could you want to explain that?
Yeah, so custom shapes. I think it was more. People got made aware of that mainly from Sparth. I don't know if you know the artist Sparth.
No.
He was art director on the Halo. Amazing artist, amazing French artist also. So of course I'm biased, but he basically what he figured out is that you can use what's called custom shapes in Photoshop, and by default they're vectors where you can set them as just pixel mode, and what you can do is just drag and drop them around. So what's really cool is you can come up with a shape that is basically a vector, and then depending on how you stretch and place it, you kind of just get different results. It's almost like you drag and drop shapes on your image to kind of come up with stuff. But it's a fantastic tool. But so I started with that, kind of blocked out the composition for the building from those custom shapes. Like if you zoom in on that, you'll see very sharp lines, and that's oh yeah, that's the highest I have
That's the
there.
highest you have. You got to go back and
Sorry,
replace some
sorry.
entire
Yeah.
one.
Well, you can see that on the trunk as well on the white.
Yeah.
I think the you see how sharp it is with the little dots.
Yeah.
That's because it comes from the shape because it's so since it's a vector that you're using.
Oh,
It
okay.
kind
So
of
I was gonna ask that, like, because it gives it this, free style kind of painting look. Like, for instance, you have these trees here that look very, low res, but they're not. They indicate it just fine. And then you have the
right.
highlight of the sunset there, and I was noticing that. So is that coming from the custom shapes?
Uh, So the overall shape might be on these, yeah, but the actual color isn't, because when you do custom shapes, they're just flat colors. Well, for as a whole, if you just look for custom shapes, there's a lot of tutorials on it. But yeah, the short version is you kind of start with a vector art, and when you drag and drop, it auto transforms the shape, right? So it's like you're not just using a stamp. Depending on how you drag and drop it, it changes the size and scaling, which means if you have a rock vector, right, and you just drag it normally as a square, you'll have your rock. But then if you kind of just drag horizontally a lot, you'll have kind of a perspective of rocks, right? So you can use that to create already a ground plane, if that makes sense.
Huh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, it's really fun. And if you use it with trees, it's the same thing. And since it starts from very sharp shapes, then you can have those selections, and on top of that, paint however you want. So now, I think you mentioned it, but those background trees, I think, especially with the trunks, I think that's what it was. And then just doing a selection on top of that and just painting the orange highlights, right? It just kind of makes for a very fast
Hmm.
process to do those things.
Is that what happened for, let's say, these little bits in here?
No, I think that was the mixer brush thing that I was talking about earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I like the hits of that. You can always share your screen if you want to share your screen as well.
Oh yeah, sure. All right, screen share. If I do this, how much
I
of this
see your
can?
whole Photoshop.
Okay, awesome. And if I do this, yeah, that's
Cool.
perfect. Okay, so that's okay. So if you just drag and drop a custom shape, it just looks like this, right?
Hmm.
So I have a bunch of shapes here that I can use that I've already kind of set up, or that I've grabbed
So
from
you
other
made
people.
these shapes?
I believe a lot of these I are from somebody else, even though this is my name. I think that's because that's things that I'm using. Yeah, I didn't make those.
Where are
Um,
you selecting? Is there a brush that's called shapes?
it's here. So where you have the rectangle tool and everything, the bottom is
I don't
custom
see your
shape.
cursor for some reason.
Okay, how's that?
Yep, I see your cursor.
Okay, awesome. So see, you just go here and just go custom shape, and you want to make sure that you're in pixel mode. Because if you're not, by default, it'll be shape. So it actually creates all the vector dots, which you don't want. You want
Oh.
it to just be pixels. Um, but yeah, again, I want to make sure that I say this, but Sparth is, to my knowledge, the person that really developed this technique to
Hmm.
where it's at today. Because before, people knew about this but didn't use it as extensively. But as I mentioned, so you can have a rock brush like this, right?
Hmm.
But if you use it and just drag and drop a bunch, it kind of helps you having already kind of like a really nice base to work on, right? And it automatically distorts. So it's already cool for it's also cool for things like that, right? Because you can also drag and drop around, right?
Hmm.
And then since that's a selection, you can also kind of just paint on top of it. Oh,
Okay.
I am in mixer brush mode. But then, where Sparth really took it to the next level was using it with a smudge brush, meaning he would just start with something like, yeah, let's see this. So you would just start with something like this, right? And then if you just go 100% with the smudge tool and something like a hard brush, you can just kind of drag things around.
Huh.
And that's how a lot of the Halo 5 Garden
Oh, sick.
art stuff, I believe, was done, right?
Yeah. Oh, shoot. I need to start. Yeah, that's really cool. All right. You sold me. All
Yeah.
right. But then you're not stuck and it's easy to customize. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. And again, you if you think of all the possibilities, like I use it a lot for trees. You'll see like a lot of my foregrounds are really just this, and then I kind of just go in and refine
Yeah.
it and come and paint stuff. So it's just kind of a good base for that, right? And again, since it's on its own layer and it's so sharp, you can then just use it as a selection and just kind of paint on top of it, right?
Hmm.
Which is really straightforward. Um, yeah.
So there's more painterly stuff because you can always, because at first when I remember seeing this before and I was just like, well, what's the difference between this and just cutting out a photo of a tree real quick and then just painting on top of it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but you can get some like that. bit that you did on the ground there helps you, instead of doing a lasso and then painting it that way, you can just do this and get some free shape,
Yeah,
free
exactly. And
stuff.
it just kind of lets you come up with compositions very fast, right?
Hmm.
Like see how fast it was to kind of just get this really quick.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
And then you just customize them, right? You don't have to stay close to the shape, but it just, especially for people that tend to have they have the blank page uh, issues, when they can't really paint if there's already if there's nothing on the page, you can kind of just start blocking things out and then refining them from there. Come on, there you go. Yeah, yep. I really love using this technique, but yeah, I don't remember why initially I was showing that, but oh yeah, because of the house. So
Yes.
the house in that painting, I probably can find it here actually.
So is this a pack that you got, or are these all made?
It's a bunch of packs. Yeah, yeah. If you look for, I think this is from the industrial custom shape pack. I'm really sorry to the person that made these. I do not remember on the top of my head the name. I actually think it's Long Fam.
Long
Um,
found?
Long Fam. Yeah, I can't find it, but yeah, you see, I have like sparse stuff here, and like I mentioned, like just for perspective, that stuff is just awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Wow. So you can switch. How are you switching quickly between different?
Oh, just right click, just like regular, like a regular brush, right?
Okay.
And then you have to think in positive and negative, with the shapes like you just draw with
Oh, so
value.
you're using just. I thought you were switching between different brushes just then, but you're just using one and but dragging, distorting it to.
Yeah, yeah, I am.
Okay.
So
Okay.
see,
That's
you just
real
start with that
fast.
one, and then it just works out.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, that's way faster than using cutout photos or whatever. You can just quickly just
Yeah,
plop, 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 plop them
and
around.
and see, like the reason I love that is because to me, I just do this for 2 seconds, and I already see kind
Have
of a
composition there.
yeah, kind of uh, a Chinese temple. You can already kind of have a sort of temple on top of a hill here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I like for ideas. I feel like that's just fantastic, honestly.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do this. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Cool. All right. Thanks for showing that little demonstration.
of course.
We can continue on and let's you want to talk about your game?
Sure, yeah, let's do that. Should I
All
stop
right.
sharing screen?
Yeah, you can stop sharing. Or I guess we can finish talking about this real quick. Like
Sure.
I want to bring up the mood, like the colors. So the colors are inspired by the Russian paintings. You're saying,
Yeah, 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 old school Russian paintings. Yeah.
okay? So you're using the shape brushes for these rocks, and then you're painting in the snow on top, and then the grass on top. Because I
Um,
love the painterly feel of this. That's what's so nice,
Thanks.
and like the breakups with like this rust. You got the yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, the building is the main thing. The building and the trees, especially on the extremities, right? The trees behind the house, I think, were fully painted, but the trees in the foreground and background, I think, might have been started with custom shapes. I think the rocks, the general composition was custom shapes, but then I very quickly started painting on top of. And from what I'm seeing, I think I might also have started with a rock picture as a block out for all the cracks in the foreground there.
mhm,
I believe. What I tend to do with that is I just use pictures in one specific spot and then just I extend from that. So I kind of use it almost as a reference spot. And then once I have that little spot painted over with the pictures, I kind of mimic that everywhere else on the painting.
okay. It feels like there's a lot of red in the shadows and even lights, but it's also cool at the same time. It's like a mixture of the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, what got you to decide on that? Like because you have an overcast sky that's gray and blue, but you have this in between stage that is nice.
Yeah, thank you. So for that one, I think for once I really wanted to start with an underpainting. So I think I started really orange on almost everything, red and orange. And then on top of that is where I kind of came in and added white and started adding the bluish sky. But I really wanted to keep that one into kind of the challenge I wanted to give myself is to do something that clearly looked and felt cold, even though I was using almost only warm colors.
Cool. Yeah, it worked out well. Nicely
Thank you.
done. Congrats. Let's check out the values real quick. Boom.
And I also do want to mention that that was the first painting I think I finished after Riot. So that one was a big importance to me because I kind of was going back to doing things that just brought me happiness as opposed to
Mm.
kind of just, feeling very mechanical with work, if that makes sense.
Well, what do you do about that when you, because that is an issue when your love becomes work, you know?
Yeah,
Um, how do you, it's always tough to break out of that and to get your passion back in the thing that turned into work.
sure.
Um, are you have any techniques or methods for that or?
I think first thing is to realize that companies are companies. So I think a lot of people they tend to have kind of a dream company. They think I want to work at Riot or I want to work at Blizzard, and when they get there, they realize that it's just like everywhere else, meaning that there's issues, it's not perfect. And so I think the first realization is really that companies are companies. They're not perfect, and it's good to have kind of a target company, but you have if you put it too much on a pedestal, then you're setting yourself up for failure and for disappointment, and what we're saying here, which is kind of burnout and work really turning into work. Um, and then on top of that, I think it's also important to have things that you care about that you can always go back to, right? So if you go home and you realize, oh, today, like all I did was sketches for outsource that just brought nothing for me. Like it's not the kind of art that I enjoy. Then at least having side projects or
Mhm.
um, things that you can look forward to in the future. So again, also I think for me, when I was at Riot, I kind of looked at it a lot in terms of the end point, right? Oh, this is the biggest company, and that's where everybody wants to go. So
Yeah.
once I'm there, that's it. Um, but very quickly, I realized that I needed kind of a next step. Like, okay, what's next? And
Yeah.
then in the back of my head was always, I want to have a universe or an IP that is mine that I can just dream about, right?
Mhm.
And at the time, it was kind of a robot game that was inspired by a mix of Homeworld and Dune. It was way too big, so it never kind of went anywhere. But then after that, then it was Tides of Tethys, and kind of something that also joined all my other hobbies, which is scuba diving, underwater exploration. But yeah, I think it's too reasonable that it's just realizing that companies are companies and it's not, it is still a job in a lot of cases. And then the second one is having things that are yours that nobody can take away from you that you can always be inspired by.
Okay. So before we get on to your game, I just want
Yeah.
to point out. So you have this character in here. Technically, it's not environments, but
Yeah.
I am about to launch a character creature department on here. So I have some people already uploading stuff to that page and line up to interview and talk about their stuff. So you'll be able to have, your normal profile, but just like
Right.
put that and that will populate to the character page. So
So
it'll
what
be
you're saying is that technically I could have been banned today because I posted a picture on it, but I
no,
got lucky. I got very lucky.
no, 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 no. You're all good. I'm not gonna blackmail you or
Appreciate it. Thank you.
blacklist
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
But yeah, it still looks super cool though. So you were doing characters too as well, right?
Yeah, I do everything. I know people tend to kind of say, "Oh, you're an environment concept artist and all that," but I just love painting everything, and I prefer not being the best at a specific theme. If that means I can paint everything that I want, that's something that's more important to me than just being, the world's best, but just environment concept artist at color, right? Like
Hmm.
that's fine, but I think it's more fun when you don't limit yourself, and that's something that took me a long time where I felt the pressure of everything I needed to paint needed to be at the same standard, same level of quality than my strong suit, which is kind of organic environment and color and light. But at one point, I just said honestly, fuck it, and just paint whatever you want, and that's the best way to learn. And if you don't like, of course, it's gonna suck because you're not used to it as much. And even if you do it and it sucks, then the next one's going to suck less, right?
Do you use 3D blocking out for characters as well?
It depends. Sometimes I do. On that specific one, I did not.
And no shape
Well,
brush.
it was 1,000% painted from scratch.
Oh,
Everything.
nice. That's cool. Yeah, I like the wings.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's get into your game, man.
Yeah.
So we got the Ties of Tethys or
Yeah.
Tethys. Tethys.
I think it's
Um,
Tethys. Yeah.
are there
Honestly, it's however you want to pronounce it, but it's fine.
are there other softwares that I was missing that you wanted to add into this? Oh, you're using Embergen. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I used a little bit of it for some particle stuff. For some flip books. Sorry, I don't think there's some. I mean, it's music, so I don't think it's related to that. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah. For
All right.
anybody that cares about audio stuff, I do use FL Studio, previously called Fruity Loops, but
Oh,
that's
Fruit
that's
Loops.
yeah, but that's the only software that I think is not mentioned on there.
Cool. All right, so let's check out the trailer.
Cool.
Well, that was cool. Let's go through some of these things, or actually, let's just talk about like how you came up with the. Well, I guess you talked about like the snorkeling or the scuba diving helped inspire you to do this. But what made you decide to be like, okay, this is going to be the one I'm going to make this type of game because that's a hard moment, to make that
Sure.
decision.
Yes. So initially, I knew I wanted to do something underwater, but the main goal is I honestly just wanted to mix things that I enjoyed from games. So I love base building. I love exploration games. I love games where you can kind of customize stuff that you have. And so that's what I started from. Initially, the game was kind of just going to be a lot more city builder ish and much more handcrafted. So it was more going to be, hey, you kind of build your base and you go through levels, and each level has a very specific challenge. But then, because it was just the two of us, we realized that going roguelite was something that was actually more front loaded in terms of work. Meaning, if we could just figure out the systems and spend 3 months doing the systems and figuring that out, then we could get some really good prog gen for all the environments or the levels or the objectives, which would allow us kind of um, to make all that workload easier on just the two of us.
Well, how'd you figure out the programming and everything? Do you have a guy that your partner that's or teammate that's is programming all this stuff for you? Like how
So I
you're a
actually,
concept artist. How'd you did you
yeah. So as I mentioned, when I went to school, they kind of taught us all the foundations on this is how you do basic programming and how you move a cube when you press W. This is an engine. This is how you do audio design. So I actually know how to do pretty much everything.
Okay.
It's just the way I like to describe myself is I'm kind of a junior, at least at everything, and
Hmm.
then I'm a senior only at a couple things.
Yeah.
And so, whether it's the music or the sound design or the environment art or, the character modeling, like all that stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, we did have Jasmine, which is an amazing character contractor that we had for some time, do some of it, but the majority of the work there is mine. On the programming side, I do have the my teammate like we talked about, and he is more here to. I joke with him a lot about that he's kind of here to fix everything that I break. So the idea is that I kind of tend to mock gameplay and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm trying to do, and here's the systems, and then he kind of goes in and makes them actually work and does them the correct way and the optimized way. Because even though I'm kind of able to do most of all this stuff, I do in a way that's more in terms of programming, at least, kind of more at a blockout level. Um, and I'm missing in a lot of cases that kind of 10% top level of, oh, it's better to use a data table as opposed to using a struct for kind of, and sorry, that's programming terms, but yeah, kind of, even though I'm able to do in programming a lot of what I need, I don't always have the best solutions for it. So that's where Kyle comes in, and where he's able to kind of make everything kind of the better version of it.
What's his background? Is he a programmer for games already, or is he just
Tech art mainly,
okay?
yeah, a lot of tech art for VR, and a lot of kind of nitty gritty stuff within Unreal. So there's a lot of kind of really good knowledge with Unreal there.
Okay, cool. So how long have you been working on this for?
About 4 years,
4 years.
but about 2 years ago is when we kind of made the switch from what it used to be to what it is now. So technically, what you're seeing there is about 2 years old ish.
Wow. And you're working like every day, all day long? Like what kind of
Yep,
hours? What is
full
something?
time on this.
You working all night?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a weird schedule. I tend to start around 12 and or between 12 and 2 p.m. and work until like 10 or 11 p.m. usually.
Okay, cool. So you would obviously, sketch out concept, all this stuff first, and then you build it, or were you kind of exploring and building, creating as you were making the models and the world and everything like that?
Yeah, the latter. We usually, since again, I mentioned I can kind of model and do everything. Like in a lot of cases, it's more a matter of already knowing where I'm trying to go for. And then if I already have an idea, and I kind of have something solid in mind, then I don't waste too much time on the concept side. But for things that are more important, like the characters, we call them the knights. But the knights and kind of enemy creatures and very specific props or POIs, they tend to be concepted, but other things, they're just kind of more freeform.
And you knew how to do the effects and stuff like that too?
Yep, everything.
Cool. So the deformers and all that's really neat. Like I like how that effect is. That's cool. These colors are nice.
Thank you so much.
Have all in here.
I,
What is
I do want to add really quick, sorry, that I did still have to learn a lot of it. So even though I knew how VFX works, and also on top of that, there are some assets that you see there that are Unreal Market assets.
okay?
It's not a lot. I'd say it's maybe 10, 15, 20% at most in
Hmm.
what you see. But sometimes, for VFX, I'll start with something that exists and either modify it or study it, and then create the rest from scratch.
Cool. So what is the point of the game? Like you're building buildings or structures.
Right.
Is there like this story, or do you not want to reveal that just yet? Or
We
um,
can talk about that. I'll read this verbatim from our Steam page, so to make sure I
okay,
make it justice. But it's an immersive underwater roguelite simulation game centered around exploring and surviving the uncharted depth of an alien world while building and maintaining modular outposts. So it's not a city builder per se. It's not something where you're just going to have a base and you're always going to make it bigger until you win the game. It's more so you send out expeditions of knights, right? So you can decide, okay, let's go in with 1 or 2 or 10 knights, and then you try to, each time you go in a region, you try to kind of reach the boss level of that region. So there are 5 levels per region, um, and then every time you go in and you manage to get out, you get rewarded, and you can kind of unlock more tools and more ways to survive. So our knights are able to have tools equipped to them. I think you see that towards the start when they ping with the sonar. Um, but the idea is that you can decide, okay, well, I know this little guy is going to stay near the base and is going to take care of fixing the building. So maybe I'm going to give him better tools and maybe a stronger armor. And that's more important than having a lot of oxygen, right? Because if that
Mhm.
knight is going to stay by the base, he doesn't really need to have big oxygen canisters. But on the other hand of that, you can think, okay, well, this guy is going to be my explorer. So maybe I need to have bigger oxygen tanks, and maybe I need to have longer fog of war reveal vision, and maybe I want to give him a bike so he's faster, right?
That's a cool effect. I like the holographic view of the buildings
Me
selection.
too. Yeah, the little outline stuff.
Hmm. All right, yeah, sounds cool. When is it going to be fully released or?
So we're aiming for early access before the end of the year. That's our hopeful plan. But you know how things go, and it's just the two of us. We want to make sure that the first version of early access is not going to be like you play for 10 minutes and then it's all bugged and broken. So, but our current plan is towards the end of the year.
What exactly is early access?
So for this, it means that you're able to play all the kind of core mechanics. So you know you can explore, you can unlock stuff, you can kind of extract and kind of finish regions and play with different factions. But it also means that you know in some areas it's not fully polished, so there's bugs. Sometimes performance can drop, and it also means that there's not all the content that we plan, right? So there's a limited amount of tools, right? So for example, in the long term, we hope to have enough tools and variety so you can kind of always play differently and always run into different kind of events. But when that comes out, that number will probably be more limited than what we plan.
Were you doing the animations, or they are coming from the Unreal market?
No, that's a mix. The animations were between me and Kyle. Kyle actually been doing a lot of the animation refining lately.
Cool.
That tentacle is Unreal Marketplace, by the way.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I did the red visibility effect on top of it, but otherwise it's Marketplace, and some of the VFX there as well for the
Cool.
EMP.
So, how if you were to give it a pitch for anyone watching this for the first time, how you sell them on the game? How is it? How is it different from others? Like, why should they get this game? This is your
Yeah,
moment right now.
well, short version is if you have thalassophobia and you're scared of the sea, well, don't worry. Your character is not the one getting eaten alive by a shark. It's going to be the knights, so you're safe. um, but yeah, it's I think it's for people that enjoy things that tend to be heavier and more atmospheric and a little bit more punishing. And something where each time you're kind of going to die, I think, oh, okay, well, at least now I have this new tool or I unlock this new thing, so now I can go in again and have a different way of playing, or I can kind of try different things. And we do have really cool customization options. And on top of that, finally, each knight has kind of its own backstory that's randomly generated that also affects its stats. So, we can have, for example, you have from the top of my head, knights that are they used to be kind of racers or underwater scooters, and so that knight is going to be faster on bikes, right? Or you can have knights that um, they kind of lose morale slower because they keep carrying little blue crabs in their pockets, right? So they have little pets, and those pets kind of cheer them up. So that's not things that we currently show visually, but at least in the text, why that knight tends to have less of a morale drop, right? Um, so I think hopefully people will have a fun time with that.
Yeah, I love the contrast and the glows. It's so magical.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted to kind of do a different take on underwater. I mean, there's amazing underwater games out there, right? Like
Mhm.
Subnautica, for example. Um, but I really wanted to push for something that was kind of more fantastical while still being really scary at the same time. Because it does get really dark and spooky.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Looking forward to it. Is there anything else you want to say about the game?
We're just really excited that it's out there. I think honestly, right now, I'm so excited to be able to start talking about it with people because having
Yeah.
it under wraps for so long, and that's another thing is I'm really excited about people seeing that side of what I do because people tend to look at me and think, oh, he's a concept artist or what,
Hmm.
which is awesome, and I love doing concept art, but I don't feel it's fully representative of my skill set and what I love creating.
Hmm.
So I'm just really excited about people seeing that side of what I do, and it kind of feels like letting my baby out in the world finally. So that's really exciting. But in terms of the game, the other thing that I want to tell people is we really want to build this for the community, 1,000%. We don't currently have stakeholders or publishers or anything. So if you're saying, I kind of would love to see this in the game, now's really the time to say that, or things that you're excited about that you want us to hone in on in the game, right? If you're saying, oh, well, I actually really want to see what the game is when it's really, really dark, right? Like that's a good
Hmm.
time to say things like that because we have that freedom with the game. And we really, even though we have a vision for it, have something that I'm trying to achieve. I want to make this for people. I don't like, I already can play with things at home to make this game like to change it a little bit for me if I want to play it a certain way, but for people, I really want to make sure that this is something kind of unique and fun for everyone. Well, not exactly for everyone, because as a lot of people
Yeah.
say, if it's for everyone, it's for no one. So let me rephrase that. I want to make this for the niche that we're targeting.
Yeah, I love the mood. I love the
Thank you.
animation style, the glows and everything. I'm looking forward to checking it out. How can people actually give their thoughts on the game and help the game grow? Because that's really great that you're listening to the players, you know?
Awesome.
Um, so how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, honestly, the short version is you can post on our, as you can see there, there's a link to the star page under that
Hmm.
trailer. But currently, we have a Discord if people want to join that, and I'm very, very, very active in that Discord. So if anybody has any questions, if they want to talk about the game, if they want to talk about what they hope is going to be in the game, you can put stuff in there. Or you can write on the Steam page. We also have posts left and right on Reddit. Also Twitter. Like, if you see me on Twitter, you can even message me directly on Twitter. That's fine. Um,
Is
you
there a
know,
specific name so they'll be
if
able
you
to
look
search for?
for myself, so Geoffrey Ernault or Exphrasis, that's my nickname everywhere. And for the game itself, it's either if you look for Tides of Tethys or if you look for Black Rust. Black Rust is the name of the company. Um, Usually, you'll hopefully find it fairly
Okay.
easily.
I'll put that information at the description at the bottom of the video
Awesome, thank you.
for people to get to. Yeah, dude, this is quite ambitious.
Sure is. Yeah,
um, yeah, it's really cool. It'll be cool to see some early reactions when people start playing.
yeah, we're really excited about that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for you. This is a lot of work. Last 2 years of taking the chance, doing it. What everyone see. Here's the thing. I'm in. People listening to this now will be like, "Oh, he's talking about me." People, I keep trying. Like they tell me, "Oh, dude, I got these like game ideas, indie games." Like, well, fucking do it. Let's do
Oh
it. Come
yeah,
on.
yeah, just do it. It's funny because this started really with me. The way I really, so I actually didn't give you a full answer earlier. You asked me how did I start this. I started this with opening Unreal, and I thought, oh, I kind of want to do something like a city builder. So I went on Unreal Marketplace. I found a blueprint for just a top-down city builder RTS game pack, and I started
Okay.
with that. And then I replaced the main unit with a block out guy that looked like he was in a dive suit, and then I kind of found some block out Victorian-looking buildings online. I just kind of visually tried it, right? I was like, cool, let me place this building. And then little by little, you realize, okay, well, now I need to learn how to do this. And now this is what I want to try to do. And then I need to add that. And that's what gives you the answers. You're never going to
Mhm.
have all the answers and you're never going to be more ready than you are today to get started, right? So
Yeah,
just
totally.
do the thing. Just go
Yeah.
do the thing.
Just do it. I mean, I get it. I totally understand the financial risk. It's like, well, I
Yeah.
can't like just stop working and then I have to like take care of my kids. I have to put food on the table, blah, blah,
Just
blah,
do it
blah.
on the side and scope it down. That's what I tell people
Hmm.
is I I'm very happy with where the game is today, but if there's one thing I would do differently is I would ship a project first that is way smaller because even right now with the game being announced and marketing, there's so much that I'm still learning and mistakes that I'm doing
Hmm.
that I just wish I spent 1 week on a terrible project, really terrible game that is tiny, like a Flappy Bird style game, right? And
Hmm.
not to say those are terrible, but I think they're more accessible to make, right? Like they're still fantastic games. Do something tiny like that. That's just going to take you 1 week after work, and just try to make a small thing and put it out there, and then do something bigger.
Yeah, I mean that's the way to go, right? You just gotta just do it. I
You
mean,
gotta
that's
start
all it
somewhere.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then if you need help, go on Fiverr. Get someone to help you out.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's your page, man. That's your game. Hopefully you can inspire other people to do their dream as well. No more
that would be
excuses,
the
people.
dream.
Just fucking do it. Just
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, yeah.
Come on. Get off or get free from being underneath the boot of the people or your boss.
Yep, and there's never been a better time for that because people just they want to see what you have to offer. Like we all we're saying right now from AAA stuff is sequels and kind of more kind of offshoots of things that already exist. I mean, and I don't want to be too generalist on that because there's of course fantastic games still coming out left and right from AAA studios, but I think
Mhm.
people want to see projects that are less safe and just take changes on stuff.
Yeah, and one thing that actually kind of worries me on that is that the lack of potentially single player games because they're probably not making as much money as a multiplayer game, that's free
Right.
to play and endless play. And they were like, man, where are they all going to go? So it's just,
I think it depends. There's still a market for both. I think what's just important is that when you come up with an idea or something, you just have a vision for that, and you don't try to necessarily try to bring in everything to it, right? Like if it's a strong single player game, you don't need to add multiplayer to it. If it's a strong multiplayer game and your core gameplay that's multiplayer is good, it doesn't need to have a crazy in-depth story. It doesn't have to have tons of cosmetic DLCs or whatever, right? It just
Mhm.
needs to focus on what makes it good, I think.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah, it's great getting to know you. You mentioned references. There's also you can add images to
Oh wow,
reference stuff.
that's
So if you
awesome.
have like specific projects you want to do,
Yeah.
and also since you are now approved senior,
Hmm.
Atmo approved senior, you actually have the ability to upload any images. So like if you find an image, like let's say classical artists, or let's say let's go to traditional. We go to traditional painting, and you see some old painting that's really badass. You can
Oh,
upload it.
cool.
So you can upload it yourself, and just
Interesting. Okay.
give credit to the artist. And if you don't know the artist, you say unknown. And the thing is that if that artist ever shows up, they can claim that art piece and just say it's mine. Like, okay, and then put it back
Oh,
to you.
very cool.
If you upload someone else's artwork, it won't go underneath your portfolio, so you're not taking credit for it. There's a system in place. It will just be shown on the homepage here.
Nice.
So
Very
yeah, you can
interesting.
just. So I do want this to be like where people make their art portfolio, but also become like an ultimate place to find reference images. Um,
Yeah, I
and
do
because
like that.
you're doing like a project, you're searching. Okay, I want to have some rocks and ocean waves, and then it'll filter it out, and you're like, okay, cool, add that to my thing, add that to my thing. And also I do want to add, one of the goals is to, you mentioned
Pure ref.
yeah, pure ref. So I want to add something similar to that, but what I'm going to do is kind of like the Google image search,
Hmm.
and like search an area of it, or maybe search similar images. So they'll search the website and the internet, and it'll pull up like on the side of like similar images, and then you can add it to your reference library for any projects you have. So that's something that I'm looking into.
That's great.
Um, cool, man. This was awesome getting to know you.
Yeah,
I
same
don't
here. It's awesome to meet you, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to meet you and talk with you, talk about the game and art.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And your game looks gorgeous. Your paintings are gorgeous. I really hope it does super well. The
Fingers
best of luck on
crossed.
that, man. Yeah, let's go. All you artists, all you fans out there, nerd gamers, everyone, anyone, spread the word
Yeah,
of Ties of Tethys.
yeah. Wish
And
lists really do help. Like even if you're not buying the game, that's okay. But wish lists do help us get visibility and puts us on Steam Store and all that. So it does
amazing.
really help.
Cool. Yeah. So you hear that, guys. Right after you're done with this video, go to wishlist, add it, and spread the word, share it all over your social media. And Share also Atmo on your social media, everyone.
Yeah, Atmo's great. I mentioned that to you, but I'm surprised I didn't hear of it before, because I actually really like everything you're trying to do with it, and I do think that environment art tends to be slightly underrepresented sometimes
Exactly. That's
because
why I
people really
started
love
it.
characters. So I think that's great. That's really great.
So that was the reason why I started. It was like I was trying to find map painters, and I was like, "Where are the damn map painters on RC?" It's like it's so hard
Right?
to
Yeah, it's
find.
hard now. Like you used to be able to on like CG Hub and things like that. I think it was easier, but like
Yeah,
today it's
it's
hard.
so hard. So that's why I have it organized for. It's like, okay, all the art is environment art is there, and you're gonna see all the high quality art here. You filter it by senior. There, you're good. You have the skybox. You have the map paintings. You have traditional concept. So if anyone
I
wants
do love
extra,
skyboxes as well, so I'm super glad that there's a category for that.
yes. And then once I have the characters, they'll have their own little home, you know?
Hmm.
So I'm gonna add, I'll just continue adding, like I have the animation, I'll have that. I'll have even compers. Compers have no place to go. So I'll do some compers, whatever.
Very
And
cool.
if you want some extra categories on those departments, just suggest it.
Hmm.
And that's it. Cool.
Also, I do have to say, I do think we have the same headphones.
Oh, do we?
I
Oh
think
shit.
that
Oh
I
shit.
just noticed that. I think we're pretty much the same headphones, which
Oh
is
shit.
pretty funny. Yeah.
All right, man. It's cool. Nice meeting you. And just stay on for a bit because it needs to finish uploading and it doesn't take long. So,
Yep.